Hello, my name is Mark, and I thank you so much for coming by today. Well, as you can see here, I've got a few different gel pens that I already had sitting around. I keep them in my junk drawer. They're in my little cup here on my desk. I have some over in a drawer behind me in my studio. I have gel pens everywhere, and this is a Uni Ball that I'm using here. I have Pilot. I have what is it? The Sharpie ones. I have Papermate. I have Jelly Roll. There are so many brands and no-name brands of gel pens. It's kind of ridiculous. So finding a really good one, well, that's a whole other story. I have reviews on different gel pens that I can point you to. But for now, I just want to talk about something that I discovered by accident a few years ago. And I never really saw a lot of people talking about it because it's not something that is advertised widely, but it is painting with gel pens. And so here you see, I have this Uni Ball gel pen. This is, I believe, a 0.7. Most of these come in ranges of 0.38, 0.5, 0.7, and 1.0, which is the thickest. And you can kind of draw a thick outline for your drawing and then fill in with details with those thinner point sizes. I prefer, personally, I like the Pilot series, the G2s. They just work for me. That's one of those brands that just I clicked with, and of all the brands I've tried, that's the one that I use the most and most frequently, and because it comes in a full range of sizes too. And I know what to expect from it. It's a good pen. But saying that, you have to be careful sometimes when you're doing a drawing like this. What I'm doing is I'm using two different pens here. I'm using the Uni Ball and I'm using one of the Pilots to show you that there is different colored ink in there. So the rocks that I drew here, and this is just a quick doodle, and I'll get into that in just a second, but the ink that I'm using for the rocks is actually warmer than the ink that I used for the trees. And when I say warmer, you'll see it has more of sort of a yellowy tone to it, an earthy tone to it, where the trees, when I get into that, that has more of a cool tone, kind of like using like an ivory black paint versus Mars black. One is slicker than the other. One is cooler and one is warmer. And so that's when I get into this part here. And this is when I just grab a water brush and I go into this gel pen drawing, and this water, once you use water to activate the gel ink, it acts like watercolor, or it acts like ink that you would paint with. And you can use any kind of brush, doesn't matter, brush and water, Q-tip, you can use a Q-tip on this, it'll do the same thing. But what it does is basically the water pen allows me to activate the ink and then move it into the negative spaces of the drawing, as you can see here. And it is probably one of the most fun things that I do to immerse myself in sort of that meditative state when you just want to draw something. You don't really care what you're drawing. You just want to sit down and doodle and, and draw. When I get home from work, I don't want to think about dinner. I don't want to think about what I have to do tomorrow. I just want to sit for maybe half an hour to an hour and just kind of disappear for a while into my own artwork and my own creativity. It's my escape. It's fun for me. And this is probably the primary thing that I do most of all. I just grab a sketchbook. This happens to be an older watercolor sketchbook that I had. And you can use any kind of paper, any kind of gel pen. It doesn't matter. Does this work with all gel pens? All gel pens I've tried, it's worked with. I have not tried one that it didn't work with. But you can see here, once the drawing is a little dry, you can go back in with your gel pen again and add even more ink to that to bring out that really nice depth, in the picture. So this is, if you're doing something like a drawing challenge like Inktober or anything like that, this is a great way to take your line drawing and elevate it to something a little more. And with practice, you can get really good at this, and it becomes a toned drawing, kind of like you used to see in the newspapers with those toned dot screens and so forth. And so what I love to do is when I get home from work, or when I'm just on the weekend or something, if I have a little time to just sit down and draw and kind of lose myself in it, I like to do these little characters, and it's all stream of conscious. I'm not really thinking about it. I'm not really kind of putting a plan together. There's no pre-sketch. You can do that if you want. And so like if you are doing a drawing challenge like Inktober or something, then it's great to have that under sketch. You do like a quick pencil sketch of what you want to do and then ink it in. But you can see here, I'm doing the thicker outlines first. That way I know kind of the areas that I'm setting aside for this drawing. Now, this is not like a great piece of art or anything. It's just me having fun and stream of conscious. Whatever comes out, comes out. And that's that's kind of the way I love to work sometimes, especially when I'm taking a break from a project or I'm not, committed to something else. I can just go in and have some fun. And that's what this is all about. It's just having fun. So like I said, I discovered this technique a few years back, and it was just by accident. So I don't know if other people do this. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. But what I love to do is just create these drawings, do the line drawing, set it down, put in some details, not too heavy on the details. I'll do some lines and dots and things like that, but kind of keeping it pretty simple. I do like to flesh out some conceptual ideas, like this woman laughing here has braces on, and this guy's got a nice little baseball hat. So some details are great. I want this drawing to like kind of, I know what's going to happen to it. So I want the drawing to really leverage this technique of the gel pen painting and kind of bring these characters more fully rounded. And you can see they're just kind of flat right now. They're just pen and ink. And this drawing is fine as it is. And I can go into this and I can color it and I can do whatever I want. But for me, I just want to have some fun, and I'm going to bring these tones out. Another great thing about this is this can be used as an underpainting. So you can actually kind of lay out where you want shadows to be using the gel pen ink, and then go in later with watercolor or markers or whatever, and you can go over this. It's not going to disrupt it too much because once you pull that ink out, it's pretty much there. So I can draw a picture like this and leave it sitting in my sketchbook without putting water on it yet. I can leave it in my sketchbook for like a year. And then when I come back to it, the water will still activate that ink because it's still there. But once you activate the ink with water and you pull it out into those negative spaces, it pretty much dilutes it enough that you can't really pull it out later. So you'd have to draw back over it and go into it again to pull more out. But I love to go into this later, so I can take this drawing later and go into it with watercolor and just add some very thin layers of color to give it some nice accent colors. I'm not going to do it here, but you can kind of understand what I mean. So I could do this character's sweater. I could make a nice little orange sweater with some blue hair if I wanted or whatever. But using this gel pen painting technique, I can kind of see where the values are, and I can kind of lay out a map for where I want the colors to be darker and lighter and so forth. So another thing, again, like I said in the little rock doodle that I did before, is that once it's dry, you can go back in with more gel pen like I'm doing here and really thicken up and darken those areas. So here, this woman's hair, it really gets dark, and I like that. And with that ink, I can pull it off of this area that's really saturated now with ink, and I can pull that and bring it to another area. So you can move this around with the brush, which is another great advantage to this. So, this is not anything different than we've already done in the past, but it's just a new way to approach pen and ink drawing, and being able to use brush pens with the gel pens and create a whole new look and feel for your drawings. It's just a nice little trick and a nice little kind of technique to leverage, and takes your art to a new level, especially if you're doing something like Inktober or any kind of drawing challenge, or even just doing some sketching for a project. This is a great way to sort of bring it to another level. So I hope you're trying stuff like this. I hope you're experimenting with your work. Thank you so much for coming by and watching this today. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, because I'd love to bring you more content like this. I hope you are having fun in whatever creative projects you're working on. I hope you are indulging your creative spirit, because you really need to. If you don't do it on a daily basis, at least once a week, or just devote a little time to your creative self and immersing in that meditative kind of state of mind when you're sinking into a drawing and nothing else matters. I love that. But anyway, again, thank you so much for coming by. I really appreciate your time watching and just being here. As always, stay creative, stay well, and stay healthy, and God bless.